All right, 2 Kings 1. Let's call this one Through the Eyes of the Prophets. Enough running, because this time we're going to see Elijah back in the story. But unlike previous times where God has told Elijah to flee from Ahab and Jezebel, this time there's going to be no such word. Well, one, because Ahab is gone. His son Ahaziah has taken over as king of Israel. But he's repeating a lot of his dad's bad habits, such that in this story, it begins with him falling through an upper level of his home, becoming injured to the point where he gets extremely concerned, so concerned that he's going to want to seek the advice of a prophet. But he doesn't seek the advice of a prophet. He sends his messengers to go inquire of Baal-zebub for guidance as opposed to the God of Israel. And so God is going to send Elijah to intercept Ahaziah's messengers and send them back to say, is it because there's no God in Israel that you're going to inquire of Baal-zebub? But before they can even get a word out, Ahaziah is going to notice that they have gotten back way too soon to have gone all the way to Ekron to inquire of Baal-zebub and return. And so he's going to be like, why are you back so soon? And they're going to respond, because the man told us to go back and basically ask, why don't you just ask God? To which he's going to reply, what did he look like? They're going to describe him, and Ahaziah is going to be like, that's Elijah. And he doesn't seem to be much more happy about hearing from Elijah than his dad used to. And so he is going to send a commander of 50 men with his 50 to go get Elijah. And once they find him, that commander is going to say, man of God, the king has ordered you to come down. To which Elijah is going to reply, if I am a man of God, let fire rain down, understanding that God didn't tell him to run this time. And that fire is actually going to rain down from heaven, consuming that captain with his 50 men, to which Ahaziah is going to respond with a second captain with 50 men. This time, they're going to be even more bold. You're going to say, man of God, the king has ordered you to come down quickly. To which God is again going to respond with fire raining down on that captain and his 50. To which Ahaziah is going to respond by sending another captain with his 50 men. And this time the captain is going to get it. Instead of commanding Elijah to come down, he is going to essentially beg, as we see in verse 13. Again, the king sent a captain of a third 50 with his 50, and the third captain of 50 went up and came and fell on his knees before Elijah and entreated him, O man of God, please let my life and the life of these 50 servants of yours be precious in your sight. God is going to send a message to Elijah saying, don't be afraid of them. It's okay to go. But understand how that third captain of 50 men did what we sometimes call getting the bass out of his voice, which means as men, there are times when we think we are strong enough to stand up to somebody else or big enough to look down on them. We get a whole lot of extra bass in our voice when we think our manhood is strong enough to stand up to whatever we are facing. However, when we've humbled down a little bit, we tend to do what we call getting the bass out of our voice and speaking in a more diplomatic tone. And so understand how that third captain of 50 got the bass out of his voice in order to save his life and the lives of his men. And likewise, Peter wrote an epistle called 1 Peter, in which he is going to say, humble yourself under the mighty hand of God so that in due time he will exalt you. And in Elijah's life, he spent a long time running. And as a man, it can take a lot of humility to run from an enemy. So now that God has strengthened Elijah to essentially stand his ground, understand, Elijah's words still mean nothing if God doesn't provide the fire. And so understand, in our lives, we would probably be holding our breath an awfully long time if we are waiting on God to rain down fire from heaven on our enemies. But understand, to this day, he still has a level of control in the lives of those who oppose us that we simply don't have. And so to the degree we can learn to wait patiently on what God is working out in the lives of everyone, we have a better perspective on the fact that even though I might seem to be waiting a long time for God to vindicate me in times when I'm actually right, understanding that there are times when I'm just wrong and I just need to patiently wait for God to pull me out of time out, for lack of a better term. But in those times when I am justified and I need him to vindicate me, but I'm in a stage of life where I am running when I would rather just stand my ground, understand the value of simply being patient. If I can begin to appreciate that my waiting often fits with the way in which he's also vindicating others, even if I don't understand how it fits, then I can look to Elijah's example and see the value of waiting on God to remove the bass out of our enemies' voices in ways that we just can't.